Well, thanks, Jonathan and Hannah. Good morning, everyone. Good to be with you again. There was a lot of publicity recently around a survey which suggested that young people are more likely to pray than older adults. 2,000 people questioned by Savanta showed that 51% of 18 to 34-year-olds say they pray at least once a month. Only half as many over 55s say they do that. Now, this is not typical of other recent surveys of reported behaviour in Britain, and it may have something to do with the rapid increase in online content generated by churches in lockdown, like this one you're watching, I guess. But it still begs a question. Why do so many people, many of whom presumably don't describe themselves as religious, feel the need to pray, particularly in times of trouble? And why do others of us who are already associated with churches find it so difficult to pray? Well, many of the Psalms we're reading in these elevenses reflections can be described as prayers, and today's is no different. Psalm 5 seems to be a morning prayer set to music. I'll read from the beginning to verse 8. For the director of music, for pipes, a psalm of David. Listen to my words, Lord. Consider my lament. Hear my cry for help, my King and my God. For to you I pray. In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning I lay my requests before you and wait expectantly. For you are not a God who is pleased with wickedness. With you, evil people are not welcome. The arrogant cannot stand in your presence. You hate all who do wrong. You destroy those who tell lies. The bloodthirsty and deceitful you, Lord, detest. But I, by your great love, can come into your house. In reverence I bow down towards your holy temple. Lead me, Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before me. Well, this is the kind of prayer that is often called a lament, when we reach out saying, listen to my cry. One commentator described it like this: the reality of life on earth frustrates the full joy of the godly. Fears swell up in our hearts as we contemplate the harshness of life. Ever feel like that? When this is happening, the suggestion is the only solace to be found is in prayer. And in this psalm, David suggests a pattern for prayer, whose basis is a confidence in the one who hears us. He starts by describing how he prays as a sigh, a barely audible exhalation of breath, of feeling. This becomes a cry of emotional outburst. And finally, an articulate prayer with a discernible pattern to it. He starts facing God and acknowledging to him what he is like. He is my King, the sovereign God, before whom David is a man under authority, reminding himself that he is not struggling alone. God is his God, bound to him by a covenant promise kind of love. Then he turns to his so-called enemies, who are causing the trouble. In relation to his God, who is holy, these people are increasingly contrasted. First, it's a mild, God is not pleased with them. Then a stronger, he hates wrong. And finally a severe, he detests the deceitful. Then he turns back to God with that confidence in him restored. While evil is not welcome near a holy God, those who believe can come into his house. And notice how David says, "In the morning you hear my voice." I suspect David, like all of us, didn't necessarily feel like praying every single day. Prayer didn't always come naturally to him. He recognized that doing prayer is not so much an act of emotion, getting down to it when he feels like it. No, prayer is rather an act of will. He makes a regular appointment with God to pray every morning. Remember, David here was a king of a nation. He probably was quite busy and had a lot to do and places to go. Isn't it strange how we can think we have no time to stop and pray? Yet we do seem to have quite a lot of time to check our phone or watch our television. So if you're finding it hard to pray, why not start by putting God in your diary every day? As Jesus himself said, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father. You might start by looking at a piece of scripture, some verses from the Bible, like this psalm, I guess, or even a worship song you like. Remember what God has done for you in the past and be thankful. Don't be afraid to get out a piece of paper and a pen to write a list of things you need to pray for. Even when by yourself, try praying out loud like David surely did. You may find it more meaningful. If you find your mind wandering, don't fight it, but use the distractions and pray for those things too. If you find you are drying up, you can just stay silent in God's presence. This way, you are laying your requests before God and waiting expectantly for answers, just like David did. We all need to pray. Let's follow David's example by fixing a regular time for it, remembering who it is we are praying to, taking our needs to him in prayer, and discover again the peace and purpose that comes from praying. Thanks very much for listening. Have a great day.